and you alone deserve our worship, and you alone deserve our praise, and you alone deserve the honor. So we lift you high, Yahweh. Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh. Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh. Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh. That's who you are, Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh. Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh. That's who you are, Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh. Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh.
Come on, listen, folks. His presence is in the house. Here's what I want you to do. They're going to go back in. They're going to sing this song again. Now, this is going to take some participation on your part, because I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to picture that Yahweh is standing right here. Because let me tell you, He's here. But the reason why I want you to close your eyes and picture Him standing here is because once you picture Him standing here, that's how I want you to worship Him. I'm not telling you how to worship. There's some in the floor, there's some standing, there's some weeping, there's some crying. But I want you to picture Him standing right here in the center of the stage. How would you worship Him if you could physically see Him? Because listen, if He would peel back your spiritual eyes, you would see Him standing here. You're going to think I'm crazy. How do you know He's here, Pastor? Because I felt Him when He walked in the room. As soon as the worship passed, let me think of how I want to put my words so I don't offend anybody. As soon as the worship got past the artificial and we got into the authentic worship, because He said, my worshipers will worship Me in spirit and in truth. That means we're not just singing a song, we're not just saying words, but we're actually worshiping. It's coming from our heart. It's coming from way down deep inside of us, and it's coming out. So as they go back into this song, I want you to close your eyes, and I want you to picture him standing here, and then you worship how you see him when you close your eyes. If you want to come down front, come down front. If you want to stay there in your seat, stay there in your seat. But however you feel like worshiping when you close your eyes, that's how I want you to worship. Go ahead, worship team.
Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh. You are Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh, Yahweh. You are Yeshua HaMashiach, Yahweh. Yeshua HaMashiach. Another so holy, yeah. Yeshua HaMashiach. Have you ever seen another so holy, yeah. Yeshua HaMashiach. Have you ever seen another so holy, yeah. Yeshua HaMashiach. Have you ever seen another so holy? Jesus, Yeshua HaMashiach. Have you ever seen another so holy? Yeshua HaMashiach. Have you ever seen another so holy? And we cry, holy are you, Lord. Holy are you, Lord. We cry, holy are you, Lord. Holy are you, Lord. We cry, holy, holy, holy. Holy are you, Lord. We cry, holy, holy, holy. Holy are you, Lord. Holy are you, Lord. Have you ever seen another so holy? And holy are you, Lord. I've never seen another so holy. We cry, holy are you, Lord. I've never seen another so holy. And holy are you, Lord. I've never seen another so holy. Holy, holy, holy is the Lord. 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 Yeshua HaMashiach. Yahweh, Yahweh. You are Yeshua HaMashiach. Yahweh, Yahweh. Yeshua HaMashiach. Yahweh, Yahweh. Yeshua HaMashiach. Yahweh, Yahweh to you. Yeshua HaMashiach. Yahweh, Yahweh. You are Yeshua HaMashiach. Lord, we lift you high. Yahweh, Yahweh. Lord, we lift you high. Yahweh, Yahweh. We lift you high. Yahweh, Yahweh. Oh, we lift you high. Yahweh. There's no other name like yours, Lord. Yahweh. You alone are worthy, God. Yahweh. So we lift you high. There's just something about that name. Something about that name.
Let me teach you for just a minute. I want you to stay in this atmosphere because I feel I've heard from the Lord. Let me teach you for just a minute. And I don't want you to raise your hands. This is something for you to think about. But how many of you, when you're at home or wherever you're at, when you pray and you have your prayer time, how many of you encounter the presence like we just encountered? Don't raise your hands. I just want you to think about it. Because I'm going to tell you, most people will answer no. And they'll say, well, Pastor, the reason why we don't encounter it like we do here is because when we're here, we're at church. But you got to understand, God doesn't dwell in buildings. Listen, I'm in this building Tuesday through Fridays. Sometimes I get here before daylight, sometimes I don't. I walk in the sanctuary, walk to the office, or walk over here to this room, and you know what? It's going to blow some of your minds. There's nothing here. Do you know why? It's because He lives in us. When we leave this place tonight, if you leave God here, you messed up. Because we're supposed to take Him everywhere we go. You go to the Old Testament, He dwelt in the tabernacle. First He dwelt in the tent, then they built a tabernacle for Him. Then Solomon built his great temple. And the Ark of the Covenant represented God's presence. Where the Ark went, the presence went. We could say, just so our little minds can wrap around it, His presence was contained inside the ark. It was the dwelling place. We also know that when Jesus died on the cross, the Bible says the veil of the temple was rent from top to bottom, and it allowed access into the holies of holies. No man had ever been inside the holies of holies other than the high priest, and he only went in one time a year. And they even had bells on the bottom part of their robes, so they knew if they went in unclean and God struck them dead outside, they could hear the bells stopped ringing, and so they could drag him out because they put a rope on him because they was afraid to go in. But when the veil was rent from top to bottom, and see, there's a teaching on the old tabernacle. When Jesus said He was the way, the truth, and the life, you got to understand that's a whole lot deeper than just words saying. It had to do with the three entrances to the temple, the main gate, the inner court gate, and then the place to the holies of holies was referred to as the life. That's why it ticked all the Jews off when He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father but by me. That goes way deeper than probably what you've ever been taught. But He made a way for us to walk into the holies of holies, into His presence. In Hebrews, I believe it's 4:16, it says that you go into the presence, into the temple, into the holies of holies with boldness. Do you understand? That means we don't have to be afraid to walk into His presence. Then why is it, let us come boldly to the throne of grace, we may obtain mercy and find grace in time and help in time of need? That's everything right there. That's what we have access to. Don't raise your hands if I would say, who has a need tonight? Who needs grace tonight? Who needs mercy? Who needs help? Every hand in the building would probably go up. We've got access to it. Why then can't we experience this when we're at home or in our private prayer time? I'm going to give you the secret to this that we just experienced. We're going to go right back into it. You don't linger long enough, and you don't wait for Him to show up. 7:55. About 7:28 is when I literally felt the presence walk in. That means we had been praying. They started actually at 5 till 7. At 6:55, they started praying. So for 30 minutes, while we were praying and worshiping, Gonna mess some of your thinking up. It's okay. He wasn't here. What was he waiting on? You know what he was waiting on? Waiting for us to get pure. He's waiting for us to get pure hearts and pure hands, so our worship became pure. When our worship became pure and we weren't just singing words on the wall, he said, that's what I'm looking for. And he walked right in. I can still feel him. It's thick in here. It was thick in here Sunday morning. It's thick in here now. Why? Because we've lingered and we've waited for his presence. We've got self. We had to fight through. That's what you don't understand. We got to fight through self. Self don't want to wait. Self don't want the worship team to stand up here and sing for 45 minutes to an hour. Self would rather them sing 3 songs, clap our hands, pat ourselves on the back, preacher get up, do a sermon, and go home. That's self. That's what self would want. But we've got to learn to push self out of the way and say, God, what do you want? Sometimes you know what he wants? He wants us to just come in and for us to do what we did. Man, when I opened my eyes and looked around, there was people on the floor. There were some kneeling down. Some were still in their seats. There's something wrong with that. They were weeping. They were pressing in. And I heard him say, this is all I long for. Did you hear me? This is all. He's not longing for a performance. He's not longing for the best singers. He's not longing for the best musicians. He's longing for those that just have a pure heart and say, Lord, excuse me for a minute. I know I'm jacked up. I know I need your grace. I know I need your mercy. I know I need your help. So, Lord, I'm coming before you today in all my mess. And I'm going to lay my mess before you so you can raise it up a message. So you can change me to be more like you. Does that mean tomorrow I'm going to be perfect? No. Does that mean tomorrow I might mess up? Good chance of it. But I can go back to Hebrews, and he says, let us therefore come boldly. What's that mean? Head up. Even though when you messed up, head up. Why? I'm a child of the King. If you've been like my wife, you've been watching the thing going on over in London for the last 10, 11 days. I was glad then they finally got her buried. I woke up at 4 o'clock the other morning. She's watching on the phone. I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm watching the funeral. I said, they're going to play it again, honey, during daylight hours. You don't have to watch it right now. You can watch it later after we sleep. You can watch it. You seen them, the royals as they call them? They had their heads held up high. They had their swords. Made me think about the sermon series we're in. They was clutching their swords as they was walking in array. They had the army that was surrounding the queen's casket. She dead. I don't know why they were surrounding it then. Probably because of that $5 billion crown that was on it. but they marching in unison. And I got to thinking as I watched them, every step, every arm, perfect unison. They were in unity. And I thought, I wonder what would happen if the church would come marching in on a Sunday or on a Wednesday, swords girded onto their side, marching in unity, guarding what we prized most valuable. What would happen if the church would say, you know what, devil? You thought you had me today, but you're not going to stop me because I'm marching in unity. I'm protecting what I know is mine. I'm protecting what I know belongs to me. And that is my place next to the King. That is my place in the throne room. You can't stop me from going into the throne room. Listen to me tonight. The devil can't go into the throne room anymore. Read Job. There was a day when he was allowed to gather together right in the midst of God's courtroom. Don't got time to get into that, explain that to you. But look over into Psalms, I believe it's 82. You'll see where it talks about the thrones, and his throne set higher than the other thrones. a lot there. Satan can't get there. He used to be able to walk into the presence and feel what we felt tonight. He can't do that any longer. So when we get into the throne room, this is why it's important to get into the throne room, because Satan can't touch there. You ever thought about that? He can't touch you there. I seen a commercial the other day, and it was I think it was a chicken over in like Thailand, somewhere like that. And she had 5 baby chicks. And this cobra comes up thinking it's got a free meal. And this mama chick spread her wings out. And when she did, she walked around, she got all them chicks behind her wings. And she stood between the serpent and her kids. And that old thing flared its old ugly head up, and mama just fluffed up a little bit more. And every now and then underneath her wing, you see one of them chickens poke their head out. One of them chicks poke their head out underneath their wing. And she'd kind of slap it, put it back. How many been there before? As that snake would start to get close, all of a sudden mama reached out with her beak and pecked that snake on top of the head, for that snake knew what happened. And I watched it for 5 minutes. And finally the serpent gave up. And it went on its way and thought there's got to be an easier meal. Why? Because all of a sudden, pull up Psalms 91, Blake. No, he's a step ahead of me. He shall cover you with his feathers, and under his wings you'll take refuge. His truth shall be your shield and your buckler. You shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor of the arrow that flies by the day, nor of the pestilence that walks in the darkness, nor of destruction that lays waste at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, and 10,000 at your right hand, but it shall not come near you. Why? Go back to verse 1. He who dwells in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. Listen. We were just in the secret place. Do you understand that? So we don't think about that. We literally were just in the secret place. Just a few minutes ago, we got in the secret place. Why? Because we made up our mind we were going to dwell. That's all it was. We just, maybe not everybody, but there was a few got determined, I'm going to dwell until he shows up. Then when he shows up, did you see how easy it was to pray? Did you see how easy it was just to fall on your face and cry? You didn't have to say anything. You didn't have to say anything. And you knew, Brother Eddie, everything was going to be all right. Why? Because I Am showed up. I Am. Think about that. What is he? I Am. Whatever you have need of, he is. I Am. They sang the song. I don't know if you was listening to them as they was going back and forth. He's your provider. He's your peace. He's your cover. He's your shield. Remember the shield a few weeks ago on Sunday? We talked about the shield, how it protected us. He's our shield. He's everything we need. So why do we make it so hard to experience this outside the church? Let me tell you why. Because I'm just as guilty as anybody else. We schedule everything on our schedule but God. We can pencil in everything in the world. I can show you my calendar right now. It's full of stuff going on. When's the last time? If you got a doctor's appointment, I got a doctor's appointment next Tuesday at 8 o'clock. It's penciled in. If I'm late, I'm going to have to wait a long time. But if I'm early, So I take the first one of the mornings because I know there ain't nobody in front of me. So if the doctor don't hurry up and get in my room, I won't say, hey, where you been, doc? You supposed to be here at 8 o'clock. You're wasting my time now. I tell them my time's just as important as yours. Probably more so depending on what I'm doing. I'm a preacher. Sometimes my time gets real important. You don't think so? Be on your deathbed and call your preacher, see how important his time is. We pencil in everything but God. What would happen, just say, if you took your calendar and for the next week, you penciled in God for 15 minutes of the morning? Well, preacher, I get up at 5 o'clock. Okay, get up at 4:45. Go to bed at 8:15 instead of 8:30. Still going to calculate the same thing. 15 minutes. And watch what happens. Just like tonight. You know what happens in church? For the most part, people aren't sitting around talking. Your mind's not going over 100 things. You're focused. You're listening to the worship team. You're reading the words. Then all of a sudden, it shifts. It shifts. So here's what we're going to do tonight. I know I took probably longer than I should have to teach that little bitty spot right there. But I felt the Holy Spirit want me to. Yes, we've got a deal already. We could teach tonight on marriage, and we'll continue it next week. Maybe. Here's what we're going to do for the next few minutes. I want you just to find you a place to pray. When you're done praying, you can be dismissed. I don't care if you spend 5 minutes. I don't care if you spend 20 minutes. I don't care if you spend 5 hours. I can lock you in. But I felt like the Holy Spirit said, have my people just to call on my name and see what happens. Listen, I don't know what you're going through. Worship team, I don't know what song y'all's gonna play. So, y'all get ready to play. I want you to find a place. You may want to come up front and pray. You may want to pray at your seat. You may want to kneel there at your chair. But what you felt tonight, if you'll linger at home, you'll get the same presence, because it's the same God here as it is at your house. It's the same throne room you enter in there that you enter in here. Because he said, I am the way. He's the only way. And when you go through him, it changes everything. Y'all ready? Go ahead, lead us in a song. Find you a place to pray.